All right, greetings, greetings, greetings. Hello, I am a lady named Pearl, and welcome to another edition of Model Talk Tuesdays. Look, you all, the universe blessed me today because I met this amazing woman this past weekend at Atlanta's first Sustainable Fashion Week. Atlanta's first Sustainable Fashion Week. And from the experience, it is here to stay. And the universe just put me in front of this beautiful fashion designer. I saw her backstage. You know, there were a couple of things that happened and the whole thing, she pushed through. And I said, and then God put me in front of her and we made a connection. So you all, please help me welcome the amazing, the wonderful Rochelle Porter. Yes.
Hey, everyone.
Yes.
Happy to join you tonight.
Yes. And thank you, sis. You know, the students may have seen that a stylist was marketed, but she had fell ill. And that's how I know this is going to be a special night because Rochelle is here with us. As I mentioned, she's a fashion designer. And what I want to do, students, is I pulled up a couple of photos from this past fashion show that we had at Atlanta Sustainable Fashion Week, just so you all can get an idea of her work before we go ahead and jump in. And actually, one of our graduates was her model, and she gave one of our graduates a shout out. So this is Rochelle's work here. But let me show you one of your Pearl sisters. We got her from the back, Michaela. She crossed over from our Leadership Academy in 2019. This is, let's see, a front view. Oh, no, that's the entire runway line at the end.
She's in there somewhere.
Yep. And then we have some men that were showcased in that as well. Let's see. Okay. And then I think we are going to end with Michaela. So yes, come on, African princess, represent for the pearls and represent for Rochelle.
She did an amazing job. Like, she killed that outfit, and it wasn't even planned. Like, she wasn't even supposed to be part of my show at all. It just kind of happened, and it was perfect. Yeah.
How did that happen? Because she's a part of our sisterhood. So did you kind of see her walking backstage, or how did that connection happen?
So, you know, we had a certain number of looks that we had. We were going to do at least 12. And she was backstage with the rest of the models and was like, hey, do you need another model? And I was like, sure. You know, if we got the clothes, why not? And it worked out perfectly. And she really closed out the show, actually.
Wow, look how that happened.
It was meant to be. Yeah.
How that works. Look how that works. So that is awesome. All right, Rochelle. So we like to start from the beginning here at our show. As I mentioned, our school is modeling leadership and entrepreneurship. So we teach the girls modeling for confidence, and then we teach them leadership, but then the entrepreneurship piece, right? We have some of our students that actually want to be fashion designers. So before we get into that piece, tell us, where are you from? What's your foundation? Just so we can get an understanding of your cultural background.
Sure. Okay. Well, that's a long story in itself. So I was born in Guyana, South America, not Africa, Guyana, and because people get that mixed up sometimes, and lived there till I was about 5 years old. My family then moved to Brooklyn, New York, where I grew up, and then we eventually moved here to Atlanta. Hated it. Couldn't wait to leave.
It took me 2 years to get used to it because I'm from Miami. I like culture, diversity, and to me, this was so flat a bit. But yeah,
it's gotten a lot better. Yes, but left after high school, went to college in New Jersey, moved back to Brooklyn for a few years, and now I'm back here.
Okay. Yeah. And shout out Atlantans. When I say it took a little bit, I miss my Hispanic food. I miss the different languages I used to hear in my ear. But we are moving forward. We are turning metropolitan. But I must say, Atlanta helped me mature and grow, because this is where I started my business.
Absolutely.
This is where I became like a woman, you know, an independent woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you came back around. So what made you come back around, Rochelle?
Well, it really was not intentional at first. um, so let's see what happened. So, well, back to the childhood part. So, I grew up in, like I said, a very traditional West Indian immigrant family. So you come here, you become a doctor, lawyer, engineer. Those are the only three options. Um, that clearly was not my path at all. But growing up, I didn't really know what I wanted to do per se. I was thinking of like a traditional career, you know, traditional education, because that's just what I knew. But from the time I could hold a pen or a pencil, I doodled on everything. Um, it's just what I did. It was not like a talent or a skill or anything that I really put any value on, or that anybody around me put any value on. It's just what I did. Um, didn't think anything of it. Grew up, went to college, and much to my family's chagrin, I was actually an English and history double major.
I wasn't
So
feeling that
that was
either, right?
already, I'm already a rebel at this point, you know. But I was, people were like, "So, what are you going to do? Teach when you graduate?" I was like, no, because like I said, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew what I didn't want to do. So I was like, should I go to law school? Should I go into academia? Whatever. So because God has a sense of humor, I landed a job as a computer programmer right out of college. That
With
that's a
the
whole
English as an English
girl.
history major?
That's a whole story in itself. But yeah, it was at a very, prestigious company in Manhattan. It's like a Fortune 10 company. It was like I had arrived, I had, made my family proud, whatever. So, I thought I had it made. I had the apartment in Brooklyn. I had the suits, the whole wardrobe, and I was on my way, except I started the job and I hated it. It was like the worst possible fit for me, being a creative person at the time, not knowing what that meant. It was just like, this does not work. But I'm like, okay, I got a lease now. I have to pay rent. Um, I'm a real adult, so I can't quit my job, but I know I need some sort of outlet. So on a whim, I took a class at FIT, and it was only like a 3-day course. It was like one of those
FIT,
mini.
just for those that are tuning in.
Yes, FIT is Fashion Institute of Technology. It's one of the most prestigious fashion schools in New York. But I just took it was a random continuing ed class. So I think it was Intro to Fashion Design or something like that. I was like, I like clothes, I guess. Why not? So, and it was just one of many things that I had tried to, get my mind off of my job. So I went to the first class, and it was fine. It was fun. I liked it. I went to the second class, and the instructor told us that if we wanted to work in this industry, that we would most likely have to get our garments produced in China. This was like 20 years ago, mind you. And I was like, okay, so China. So that means human rights violations, child labor, pollution, like all these terrible things. I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to do this. And didn't go back to the third class. And that was kind of it. Because it's like, I don't have a passion for this. This is just a random class I'm taking. Just like I've taken a million other random classes in random subjects before. So it didn't mean anything to me at the time. Didn't think about it for the next maybe 10 years, 10, 12 years. I eventually moved back to Atlanta after going down a career path that I thought I wanted, but I didn't. I lost what I thought was my dream job, and everything kind of fell apart, which at the time was devastating. But now I know it was God redirecting me to where I actually needed to be. So moved back to Atlanta, and I'm kind of miserable. I'm working in these corporate jobs that I'm not excited about, but I need to pay bills. I need to make money. So whatever. And then I think around like the maybe 10-year mark after moving to Atlanta, like these strange things start happening. So first I start learning about ethical and sustainable fashion, because I can't say I was passionate about the cause, but I was always concerned about the fact that our clothes are made in terrible conditions. People are treated badly. And there are people in the world who are not fulfilling their potential because, life is unfair. And to me, the most horrible thing is like wasted human potential. I believe that God put us all here with like a special, unique purpose that only we can do. And if we don't get to do that, then we all suffer as a result of that.
Yeah.
So, and that's what I saw in the industry with people, kids working their fingers to the bones to make, cheap products that we buy at Walmart. Anyway, that's my little spiel. But so I thought that was sad. But whatever, I would tell people about it. I was like, isn't that crazy? Isn't that sad that they have to do this? And they're like, yeah, what are you going to do? So clearly I was more passionate than the average person was about this. So learning about sustainable and ethical fashion, it was like, oh, there's hope. But then I would see the sustainable and ethical fashion, and they were big on the ethical part, the fashion part, not so much.
But I wear this.
Just because, like, it got to be cute for me to wear it, like I'm not wearing a burlap sack just because it's made of a sustainable fiber, whatever. So clearly there was a gap there. There's a need there. So that was one thing. And then again, I took this random, quote unquote, random art class, but it wasn't a art instruction class. It wasn't teaching you how to paint or draw. It was more like what your heart is as an artist, like what the purpose is of creativity and how we're all creative, regardless of whether you're, drawing or painting or whatever. Like we all have something to contribute through creativity. And it was very, like woo-woo, hippie-ish, but it really changed my life in a lot of ways and changed my perspective. And there was a woman in class with me who now is a good friend. Back then, I didn't know her from Adam. And we were doing some kind of group project. And she just looked at me one day and she's like, I think there's something you're supposed to do, or something that like God wanted you to do, but you thought you couldn't do it. So you let it go, but you're supposed to pick it back up now. And right now it sounds amazing and wonderful. Back then I was like, okay, because I've literally picked.
She's a seer.
Yeah, but at the time it was just like, okay, crazy lady, thanks, because I had picked up so many things in those multiple years between that FIT class that she could have been talking about anything, whatever. But then things like that kept happening over and over again within the course of maybe the next year and a half. And I was like, okay, God, I'm paying attention now. Like one time I was getting on a flight and the Delta agent looked at my passport and she's like, your name sounds like a clothing line. And I'm like, okay, like what's happening? Like whatever it is, I'm paying attention now. So I started paying attention. And things just started opening up from there. Like I think I went to a Target or a Nordstrom one day. And, I've been to Target and Nordstrom a million times. But like one day, like my eyes were open. Like I would look around and see like pillows or clothing or coffee mugs, and they would have prints on them. They would have designs on them. And I was like, that looks like stuff that I doodle at work when I'm bored. And so I started to really explore that. How do people get their artwork onto product? How does that work? So started doing my research, went to some trade shows, and found out that what I had been doing my whole entire life was actually called surface pattern design, which is a whole thing, which I had no idea it existed. And I was like, oh, I guess this is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And that's how we started.
Well, let's hold there. And Gail, I see you. Shout out to Gail on the chat. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me go ahead and show some of these, I guess, doodles or sketches. I call it art. I'm just trying to use the word that she used, that she said she's been doing all her life with when she walked into Target, or not walked into Target, but it seemed like slowly the universe was giving her bits and pieces and bits and pieces and bits and pieces of her journey. So these are some of the pillows by Rochelle Porter. And when you're creating these patterns, what's the inspiration behind them?
Girl, that could literally be anything. Sometimes, actually, most times, the way it started was I wouldn't be thinking about anything. I'd be stressed out from work, and I would just come home, take out a pen and a random sheet of paper and just draw whatever came to mind. I wouldn't, like, my left brain was turned off and I just let it flow. And it ended up looking like something. There are other times when I see a particular shape in nature or just something that inspires me, like a color scheme. And I start with that, and it usually ends up turning out way different than what it started out as. So it could literally be anything.
So as you all can see, students, not only does she has pillows, she has activewear, which was that we highlighted earlier from the Sustainable Fashion Week. She has accessories as well. Pull this up really quickly. I know I saw dresses. I want to see these dresses. Yes. So one thing that I gathered, and let me see, my video was acting up on me. Okay. One thing that I gathered is that there are no coincidences in life, especially hearing Rochelle's story. She was trying to find herself, but all the while, you know, being guided by all of the different experiences that God has given her. So that built upon who she is today. So you are in West Elm. I know you talked about going to shows and so forth, and you know, hearing from some designers, particularly Janice Wilborn, she told me she had gotten into Neiman Marcus. Like sometimes it's a great thing, and sometimes it's like, you know. So, yeah. How was it getting into West Elm, and what would you tell designers about an experience when you branch out to a major retailer?
Sure. So. We're in West Elm. We just shipped our first order for home goods, our first test order. So we're in about 50 to 100 stores. And, you know, looking forward to more retail relationships. Each one of them is different. Some come with more drama than others. I will say the West Elm relationship has been good. It's actually responsible for a big chunk of our sales in the past year. We started on October 30th of last year. So we're right at that year mark. So yeah, it's been a really, yes, a whole year. Feels like just yesterday.
Somebody like focused.
Well, so it took a while to get here. You know that phrase that people say it takes 10 years to become an overnight success?
Yeah.
So, you know, we haven't been in business quite 10 years yet, but there have definitely been years and years and years of just working in obscurity with nobody knowing or caring who we were. And, you know, 2020 was the year that I finally started to see some inkling, you know, of a return on my investment. But so just y'all keep that in mind, you know, like it's not overnight. So with the West Elm relationship, and I would encourage anybody who makes anything, whether you're a designer of fashion or product or whatever, West Elm has a really great program where they work with independent makers. So if you have a product, they have pop-up shops in their stores every like Saturday and Sunday. So if you're interested, you know, and your product is a good fit for them, go to your local store and see if you can make that happen. But that's what we did. But that was like back in 2015 when we had our first pop-up. And we've had pop-ups periodically, you know, over the course of all those years. We had them in basically all the Atlanta stores. We did one in New York one time. So some were great, some were less fruitful than others. But, you know, we maintained that relationship. So are you familiar with the 15% pledge?
I think I am, but I'll let you say it. I don't want to.
Sure. So as y'all know, 2020 was a tumultuous year, not just with COVID, but with all the racial unrest with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and all of those incidents. And all of a sudden, all these like mainstream big box stores started realizing that Black Lives Matter. That's another issue for another podcast. But basically, they started paying attention. And there's a designer named Aurora James, if you guys are familiar with her. But all these brands were kind of reaching out and saying, like, what can we do? How can we help? You know, which they could have been doing that all along, but another story for another day. Because we've been here. Black designers have been around for centuries, you know, doing amazing work and not getting recognized. But anyway, better late than never. So Aurora's response to these brands were, if Black people make up roughly 15% of the population, we should be 15% of what's on your shelves. So a lot of brands took heed to that. And West Elm was one of the first companies to take that 15% pledge. So when I heard about that, I had already established a relationship with them through the pop-ups for, 5 years. So I was like, hey, like, what's up? Like, y'all need Black people. I'm Black. You know my work. You know my reputation.
Wow.
Let's do it. And it took, me talking to the woman who's now the regional manager, who at the time was just a general manager of the Pont store. I'd maintained that relationship with her over the years. So she was in a position to just make a phone call and connect me with the right people. Wow. So, like I said, it takes, years of just investing, just working on your craft, just getting out there, but eventually it'll pay off.
And also maintaining healthy relationships.
Absolutely.
Relationships. Yeah. Wow. So are you the first African-American in that home goods category for West Elm, if I read that correctly?
I'm not the first, but there's a few of us, and I'll emphasize few.
Okay, guys.
It's getting better, but they still got a ways to go.
Well, I want to say congratulations to you in terms of taking the initiative, seeing the door that's open and walking through it. I think a lot of us, there's a lot of doors that are open, but we don't see them. And
absolutely.
Initiative to walk through them. So thank you for being that light, walking through that door and saying, look, I'm here. And, all of this is possible.
Sure. And I would also say, prepare for the door, because there are doors everywhere. And sometimes we're just not ready. Either, we're just not at that point in our journey, or we haven't taken the necessary steps to prepare ourselves for when that door opens. So,
I think that one was for me, y'all. That one was for me.
for me too. I mean, we've all missed opportunities that we could have had if we were better prepared. So.
Okay, so you have given us like some gems and things along your journey. What would you say in your journey has been the most rewarding as a fashion designer, and what has been the most challenging?
Sure. I like that you refer to me as a fashion designer, because I actually don't refer to myself that way. I do have fashion, of course, but we also have, the accessories and the pillows and everything else. I think first and foremost, I'm a textile designer or surface pattern designer who happens to do fashion too, who happens to love fashion. What was most rewarding? I mean, it's always great to, of course, being in a major retailer is, a dream come true in a lot of ways, and it's wonderful. It's not as lucrative as people think, but that, again, that could be a whole other hour. I would say, honestly, like stuff like this, like just sharing my story with people, just encouraging people, dialoguing with people who are, far beyond where I am, or people who, are just on the come up. That's the reward for me. I think that's why I'm here. I don't think my brand is about just designing cute stuff. I think the purpose of it is greater than that. And it's about who I touch and who I reach. So that's super rewarding. Yeah.
Really powerful. And what would you say is the most You all, I'm at a club. I shared with Rochelle that look, tickets are selling really awesome for our holiday event. So I'm at a club trying to figure out if this is going to be the bigger place that we're going to be in. So forgive me, the owners walking in and out. You know, I told them that I interview, squeeze, you know, because I'm just multitasking. So I apologize. But so what would you say is the most that has been the most challenging?
Um, every single day. I think just so I have no formal fashion background. I have no really formal entrepreneurship or business background other than working in corporate America. So every day I'm learning something new. I'm literally like starting from zero and starting from the ground up. So there's certain things that people who may have had those backgrounds would already know that I'm learning along the way. And granted, I know a lot more than I did a few years ago, but in a lot of ways, it's like it's trial and error. We're learning as we go along. So there's always something new, which is great, but also a challenge as well.
Yeah, and it strengthens that muscle, right? Because it's like you're going through the jungle,
Yeah.
uncharted territory, and you're being a trailblazer for a lot of people. Because I know for me, when I started the school, no one in my family started a school before,
Right.
you know, but I just had this one corporate background. So, you know, okay, I
Yeah.
can read, you know, put proposals together.
Right.
And then the spirit, I had God. I have God with me.
Yeah.
So,
Uh-oh.
understand that when you're given that vision and it's just things for me, things are, I don't want to say they're getting easier. Maybe it's just that, maybe it's just that I've been on the path for a while.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is take a couple. Yes. So I see a question in the chat, just some comments saying, wow, nice, very colorful. They want to know, are you going to come out with a holiday line for your pillows?
Um, so not this year. We typically do like our collection that's like all black and white pillows came out last year when we launched at West Elm. We are going to launch something new and special. I'll just say it. We're launching wallpaper in the next couple weeks. So that has been a long time in the making. So that's kind of our holiday home decor offering for this year. Uh-oh. Am I frozen?
Yeah, it just went out a little
Okay.
bit. But we did hear the wallpaper, and that's going to be your core offering for the next year.
It's gonna come out this month, actually. So in time
Okay.
for the holiday season. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. And then I have a question about home goods. I guess, are you targeting home goods? I'm not sure what that question is. Yeah, I see home goods in a question mark. Could you rewrite that question? Okay. And what I want to say about your particular brand is that I know with the Caribbean roots and the bold prints, it speaks to our culture. And sometimes when we're looking for pillows or looking for things to decorate our home, that speaks to our culture and our spirit.
Mhm.
Your brand does, even with the workout clothing and so forth, your brand does that. So I want to thank you for speaking to our culture.
Absolutely.
Yes, all right. If anybody has any other questions, please, please, please put them in the chat, put them in the chat, put them in the chat. So we usually take 30 minutes. What I'd like to do is ask you if there's a pearl of wisdom that you could share with the students. What would be that pearl of wisdom that you would
Oh
share?
man,
Yeah.
let me think about this one.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so there's this quote that I always say. It's one of my favorite quotes, and it's by God, what's his name? Howard Thurman, who was a mentor of Martin Luther King, actually. And uh, I'm gonna mess it up, but it's basically don't ask what the world needs, ask what makes you come alive and go do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive. And that is kind of like a guiding light for me whenever I'm thinking about, why am I doing this? Is this really what I'm supposed to be doing in life? That's what I always go back to.
That
Because
is
this makes me come alive.
That is such an amazing pearl of wisdom. Do not ask the world what it needs, but what makes you come alive, what makes you tick, what makes you brighten that light.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question is, are you selling in home goods? That's the question.
Okay. We are selling in home goods only in a few stores. Most of the stores in Florida, because the pieces that they bought are like, right, like these. And, that would not go over well in November or December up north. It has to be in a warmer state. So that's the first little order, but the goal is to get in all 846 stores, or how many stores they have.
Okay, awesome.
But we are currently selling in home goods.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's pretty much our time, Rochelle. I want to thank you so much for sharing your story. Our students have to write papers, so I will send you the paper.
Okay.
For some reason, I got 2 or 3 questions.
Sure.
I want to thank you, sis, for sharing your story, for being obedient to the intuition in your path. Thank you for being an example in our community for our young people, all of our people. And we continue to root you on. Hopefully we can work together with your textile designs.
Absolutely.
Designs. I was trying to say the right, what is the title? What's the title?
The technical term is surface pattern design, because it's anything that has a surface. So it could be a phone case that's not technically a textile, but call it what you want. It's prints.
Okay. Surface. Okay, surface design. I'm gonna get it right, students. I'm gonna get it right.
That's good.
But thank you so much, Rochelle Porter. You can follow her on Instagram. Okay, Charlene is saying thank you. Charlene, did you want to get into fashion? I'm not sure, but any other questions? If there aren't any other questions, I am going to thank you, Miss Rochelle Porter, for being
Absolutely.
on Model Talk Tuesdays.
Yes.
Students, we'll see you next week for another edition of Model Talk Tuesdays. And again, thank you, sis. I will share the link with you, as well as any papers that come in, just so you can get some feedback.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
Awesome. All right. Have a great day.
You too.